One fine morning, Ken Ivan Bob, who had passed away because of a bad marriage and drinking too much, was being buried. As the funeral started from the church to the graveyard, one of the man's workmates, called Petruchio, took an Uber and hurried off to find a friend, one Greg Petrozak, a man who, though still young, was very liked by many. Zach, as many know, is very good at making speeches without preparation at weddings, big birthdays, and funerals. He can talk anytime, in his sleep, without eating, very drunk, or when he's very sick. His speeches are smooth and long, like water flowing, and he has many touching words to say. "I've come to get you, old friend," started Petruchio, finding him at home. "Put on your hat and coat right now, and come with me. One of our guys has died, and we're sending him off, so you need to say some good words for him. You're our only hope. It wasn't a small member of our group, but the office secretary, a big part of our workplace. It would be strange for someone so important to be buried without some good words." "Oh, the secretary," yawned Zach. "The one who drank a lot?" "Yes. There will be food and a meal. We'll pay for your Uber." "Come on, buddy. You talk so well at the grave, and everyone will be so grateful." Zach agreed quickly. He made his hair messy, looked sad, and went outside with Petruchio. "I know your secretary," he said, getting into the Uber. "A tricky and bad man, may he rest in peace. Not often you meet someone like that." "Come on, Greg, it's not nice to speak ill of the dead." Of course, but still, he was not a good man. They caught up with the funeral and joined in. They stopped at a bar 3 times on the way to the graveyard to drink to the man's memory. In the graveyard, during the service, the man's mother-in-law, wife, and sister-in-law cried a lot, as people do. When they were putting the coffin in the ground, the wife shouted, "Let me go with him!" But she didn't jump in, probably remembering she would get some insurance money later. When it was quiet again, Zach stepped up, looked at everyone, and started. "Can I believe what I'm seeing and hearing? Is this not a terrible dream? This grave, these crying faces, these sad sounds? Sadly, it's real and we're not mistaken. The man we saw not long ago, so brave, so young and clean, who worked hard for our community, is now gone. Death has taken him too soon, even though he still had so much to live for. A huge loss. Who will take his place? We have many good workers, but Tim Lee was one of a kind. He loved his job deeply. He worked hard, even late into the night, and was honest, not taking bribes. He hated those who tried to corrupt him with the temptations of this world. Yes, you've just heard how much he helped others with his small pay. He cared more about his work and helping others than about having a good time. He never got married, as you know. And as a friend, I remember his kind face and friendly voice. Rest in peace, Tim Lee. You worked hard and were a good man." Zach kept talking while people started to whisper to each other. They liked his speech and some even cried, but many things he said were confusing. They didn't understand why he called the dead man Tim Lee when his name was Ken Ivan Bob. They knew the man had always fought with his wife, so he couldn't be called unmarried. He had a big red beard and never shaved, so they didn't get the part about a clean face. People were puzzled, looked at each other, and shrugged. Tim Lee. Zach kept going, looking inspired into the grave. "You might not have been good looking, and you were serious and strict, but we all knew you had a kind and friendly heart." Soon, people noticed something odd about Zach too. He looked confused and started to act strangely. Suddenly, he stopped talking, looked shocked at Petruchio, and said, Wait, he's not dead, he said, shocked. Who's not dead? Tim Lee, there he is, by that tombstone. He didn't die. It's Ken Ivan Bob who's dead. But you said your secretary was dead. Ken Ivan Bob was our secretary. You got it mixed up, you silly man. Tim Lee was a secretary before, but 2 years ago, he got a different job. How was I supposed to know? Why did you stop? Keep going, it's awkward now. Zach turned back to the grave and continued his speech with the same passion. Tim Lee, actually alive and well, stood by a tombstone, looking angrily at Zach. You really messed up, didn't you? His workmates laughed as they went back from the funeral with Zach. You tried to bury a living man. It's not funny, Tim Lee said. Your speech might be fine for someone dead, but saying that about someone alive is just mean. Really, what were you thinking? Honest, doesn't take bribes. You could only say that about the living as a joke. And no one asked you to talk about my looks. Plain ugly, okay, but why talk about it in public?